Okay, we want to continue now with our keynote presentations with facilitating workplace transformation. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about how the workplace changes. And to do that, we're proud to have the Vice President and General Manager from PC Client Group at Intel with us, Mr. Thomas Garrison. Give him a warm round of applause, everybody. Gentlemen. Have fun.
Thank you. Thank you. And a clicker.
Wow.
Be good. Yeah, if you just get a clicker. So welcome, everybody, and thank you for coming to my presentation today. I'm here to talk to you today about workplace transformation, and specifically about how client technologies can play into, thank you, sir, can play into workplace transformation, are key to enabling that capability. You know, workplace transformation first started here in Europe, and it started principally as a mechanism to save real estate costs. And what happened through that transition was not only did companies save costs, but they were able to have employees that were more productive, that were more energized by the environment, and more efficient. And so the combination of all of those enhancements led companies, not just in Europe, but around the world, to aspire to transform. And so that's why today, workplace transformation is a bit of a buzz term, but it's a worldwide phenomenon that's happening. Now, Intel is one of the companies that has transformed our workplace, and we have our headquarters in California called the Robert Noyce Building, R&B, after one of our founders. And in that building, we have measured first, before we did a workplace transformation, the cost per employee per square foot. And it was $240 per employee per square foot to maintain that environment. And after the workplace transformation project, we were able to reduce that cost down to $150 per employee per square foot. That's a 37% reduction in cost. So not only are we talking about more productive and happy employees and able to attract and retain talent, we're also talking about real cost savings to the enterprise, to the bottom line. And according to Wakeman and Cushman, over 70% of companies around the world are in some form of workplace transformation projects today. So this is a worldwide phenomenon. It is happening, and it delivers real results to the bottom line. But in order to be able to transform the environment, you need to have a set of PCs that have the right capabilities. And those capabilities are things that are, for example, things like performance and battery life and things that we're used to talking about when we talk about PCs. But increasingly, the capability is even more important to have the right communications capabilities, the right form factors. We want to have the right device for the right job. And just saying that a PC is, you can have any PC you want as long as it's from this vendor and it's a clamshell design, or from this vendor and it's a desktop pedestal design, that does not meet the needs of the vast majority of workers. They need to have the right kind of a device. And so from our perspective, the breadth of design is super important. And you can see on this slide what we're calling the no-compromise business PC. So we have designs and form factors that range from thin and light clamshell designs to detachables, to convertibles, to mini desktops, to all-in-one desktops, to workstations, and beyond. And from all different types of OEM vendors. It's important to understand we have really transformed as an industry what a business PC is. A business PC in just a few years ago were big, clunky devices. They were heavy and were really not that appealing compared to the kind of devices that you could get on the consumer side of the PC business. But over the last few years, we've been able to take those platforms and we've been able to make them as nice, or in many cases, nicer than the best consumer PCs that are out there. This year's Consumer Electronics Show 5 of the 18 awards for Best in Show at the Consumer Electronics Show were business platforms. So they represent really the best in PCs. We also have the broadest set of designs now in the history of the industry, with over 200 unique designs for business. And the highest end of a business PC from Intel is called vPro. We have over 100 different designs with vPro, which is by far the most designs in the history of the industry. But I thought what I would do first is show you just a couple examples of what I'm talking about from, again, industry players. This first design here is the HP EliteBook Folio. And this is a great example. This is one of the winners of Best in Show at CES. But the thing to think about this, and unfortunately you can't see the weight, but if you could, you'd realize just how thin and light and slim and sleek this design is. This design is a no-compromise design in terms of the kind of utility it brings. Somebody would be proud to carry this around, whether it's a consumer device or a business device, and that's important. But even more importantly, this is designed for business use. So when we talk about PCs and workplace transformation, you can't just bring any PC into the environment. It needs to be designed for work. It needs to have a keyboard that when you use it, the keys don't pop off. When you put it in your laptop bag and you cram it into an overhead container in an airport or airplane, it doesn't crack the screen. Consumer PCs are susceptible to those kinds of issues, but in business PCs, they're engineered for this kind of functionality to stand up to the rigors of a typical business user. And this doesn't compromise at all in terms of the size and the weight. This is under 1 kilogram in weight. Another example is the Lenovo X1. So this is X1 Yoga. It will operate, it's a convertible design, operates as a tablet or as a clamshell. This particular design also has an integrated fingerprint for authentication capabilities, and again, is thin and light. It's 17 millimeters thick and less than 2.8 pounds. So again, great design. You don't have to compromise on any of the look and feel, and yet you still have, for those workers that need the tablet capability but still want the keyboard, don't want to have to deal with the detachable, this is a great design for certain classes of workers. And then from Fujitsu, we have a design here with a detachable keyboard. And so you have a small keyboard here that you can use at your disposal, or you can remove, and a small kickstand. And now you have a design, it's very, very slim and sleek. This is a Fujitsu Stylistic R276, if you're interested on the specific numbers. But again, for certain classes of workers that want to be mobile, maybe they're in a retail environment or they want to be able to go out with customers, this gives them the ability to go out on the retail floor at a tablet form factor and be able to use a keyboard when necessary. Also from Fujitsu, we have a small form factor desktop. So this desktop is one example of a fully capable desktop design. Just imagine a few years ago, you had designs that were big, bulky pedestal designs that were kind of dust collectors. These now are just as capable performance-wise, if not better, and are able to be mounted under desks, behind screens, and so forth, to give you full desktop capability, but in these small form factors. So we're continuing to evolve as an industry to be able to deliver a portfolio of products to meet the needs of each individual task worker. And our vision at Intel is not just about that kind of evolution in the form factor and the performance and battery life, those kinds of things. We have a vision of a workplace that includes no wires. We want to remove wires from the workplace, and we're driving that forward with our vision relentlessly, the capabilities that we're adding into the PC. We're also aspiring for no passwords. This is our vision. We're driving technologies and capabilities into the platform and the architecture with our partners in the industry to change the way people interface with their devices. And lastly, we want to enhance collaboration. So we want to make people be able to share information, to be able to come into meetings and be productive right away without the tensions of how do I connect to this device, or how do I share, how can I get in my information to people that are in the room or outside the room. So collaboration is important as well. These are the core tenets of our strategy around workplace transformation. So the first area is no wires. And no wires is just that. We want to abolish wires in the work environment. And the first area that we want to focus on is wireless display. So wireless display, we have, as an industry, we've evolved from the standard, which is Miracast, and we have built upon Miracast to be able to do display technologies called Pro WiDi for business and WiDi in the consumer setting. And this just allows a wireless connection to display. And we also have a technology called Unite, which I'll talk about in a few moments. But this is another form of wireless display that will make sense for the enterprise environment. Beyond that, we have docking. So wireless docking. Now, instead of mechanical docks, which are costly and specific to each individual OEM manufacturer, now in a workplace transformation, people are not given necessarily their own workspace environment. So it's a shared environment where an employee can sit down, be docked to their platform with a large screen, with a keyboard, with a mouse, and when it's time for that meeting to end, where their time at the desk to end, and they get up and walk away, then another employee can come in, sit in that same space with their PC, potentially from a different manufacturer, and be able to sit down and reuse that dock, reuse the screen, the keyboard, the mouse. That's a huge cost savings to businesses to be able to share all of those assets. And also, it's a much better space utilization for their offices and desks. So wireless docking is a key element, and WiGig is the underlying technology that allows us to do that. It's all standards-based, and again, provides that capability so that when an employee sits down, they can just put their PC down, it links up to the dock, and they're off and productive. And the last element of our no wires strategy is to drive the industry around wireless charging. And this is one of those pain points that all of us deal with, where we have to bring along, wherever we're at, we have to bring along that power brick. And we're constantly looking around. I'm sure some of you have even done it in this room, like, are there any power outlets along the wall? Can I find something I could charge, get a few extra minutes or so of charging on my device? That kind of frustration is something that we can solve. As an industry, we can and we will solve it. And that's what we're driving forward with wireless charging, with Resonance and Alliance for Wireless Power, where we want to enable the industry to be able to have a set of PCs and an ecosystem where you can set your PC down on a desk, whether that be an under-the-table power adapter mat that uses magnetic resonance to permeate up to an inch of wood and then charge your device, or it can be above the table, kind of a pad that you can set your device on and charge your device. And we could light up entire industries and ecosystems, like your office environment, like an airport, like a hotel lobby, where you don't have to have people sitting around the wall trying to plug in their devices. You now have the ability to set your device down and have it charge. And it's important that that charging technology doesn't just operate at low power levels like for your phone, but also higher power levels for your PC. And that's what we're driving as an industry to deliver to this no wires vision. We'll have platforms with wireless charging capability later this year. So this is something that is coming in the very, very near future. But here's the problem. As we talk about workplace transformation, and we talk about the fact that you need to have the right kind of infrastructure to be able to take advantage of workplace transformation, the challenge is our installed base is old. And in fact, if you look at the number of PCs that are 4 years old or older, There are 170 million PCs out there that are currently being used that are 4 years old or older. If you look at PCs that are 5 years old or older, there's 75 million of these PCs. This is the challenge, because those PCs that are 4 or 5, 6 years old, these are not capable of supporting the requirements to be able to transform the workplace. And so here is our challenge. We need to show the business case. We need to be able to show the capabilities of what is possible. This is not science fiction. It's not something that's going to happen years from now. These are capabilities that exist today, that can be deployed today for real cost savings today, and will provide the flexibility and the capabilities to deliver value over years to come. So if we look at refresh rates of PCs as an industry, on the desktop side, the average refresh rate is about 5.5 years. And that, between 5.5 and 6 years. And that has been extending as people are trying to get more life out of their desktop assets. That is a challenge, as I said, because it extends the amount of devices out there that are much older. Similar trend, although a shorter refresh period, is on the mobile side as well. So we have this challenge both on desktop and on mobile to get companies to realize that the right way to refresh their PC fleet is with a regular refresh cadence that should be somewhere between 3 and no more than 4 years. But specifically look at older assets that are out there in the workplace that are years and years old, that are driving up significant management costs, that have break-fix issues, and most importantly, aren't capable of supporting the kind of new usages that are key for workplace transformation. The new platforms today can wake up 2.5 times faster. So you have employees that aren't looking at older PCs and going, I'm so frustrated. When I first come in the office, I have to turn my PC on and then go get a cup of coffee because it takes that long to boot. These PCs now, new generation PCs, are able to boot 2.5 times faster. They can wake up 4 times faster. They have 3 times the spec'd battery life. And for anybody who's got an older PC, you realize long ago you stopped operating at spec'd battery life. You're getting far less battery life now than you ever got before. So the battery life differences are vast between old PCs and new PCs. And lastly, you have a huge advantage in form factor. So on the desktop side, you can get up to 25 times smaller volumetrics for these designs for desktops and be able to put them in places you couldn't before, like behind signs, behind screens, and so forth. And unfortunately, the environment that we live in is evolving. And we have a whole set of new attacks that are happening in the industry today. Unfortunately, 117,000 attacks occur every single day on businesses. Those attacks, over half of them involve identity, which means people are trying to get at people's username and passwords. And so phishing is the easiest way to do that. Phishing is just tricking somebody to give their username and password. So if I were to ask you here, what's the easiest way to get somebody's username and password? You just ask them. They'll probably tell you. You can trick people to give your username and password very, very easily. And so the problem is, how do we shut this door? We have our house has the front door open, which is letting people gain access in through stolen and misused credentials. So 750 million PCs are vulnerable to this class of attack. And when we talk about attacks, this is not just a theoretical case of, it's an annoyance or denial of service kind of attack. These are real cost generators for a company, where the average attack is estimated at $20 million. That's the average. And of course, if you happen to be one of the unfortunate companies that is on the high side of that average, that number can be up into the billions of dollars. So we need to have, as an industry, we need to have our PCs grow in their capability, grow in the ability to block certain classes of attack altogether. And fortunately, this is where we have, as an industry, been evolving. So when we talk about workplace transformation and expansion, we have to think and add the last vector, which is security. We have to transform the workplace, make people more productive and collaborative and efficient, but to be able to do that in a way that's highly secure, way more secure than we've ever had before. And so what the industry and Intel has delivered is multi-factor authentication. So multi-factor authentication isn't new by any means. We've had multi-factor authentication where you log into something and then people will text you on your phone with a PIN or an ID, and then you can put that in and then you gain access. Well, that is, that's what multi-factor is. It's just multiple factors to get authenticated into the PC. What we have done, what the industry has done, is to take that really 2 steps further. So first is, it's important to understand where attacks happen. Attacks happen in the software layer. They happen by loading software onto the PC, by then exploiting different vulnerabilities that exist in the, whether it be the operating system or certain programs, but they all happen in the software layer. What we have done is to realize that and provide the capability for multi-factor authentication and embed that below the software level, into the hardware directly. So the platform architecture now for the most modern PCs have multi-factor authentication built directly into the architecture. And so that's the first element. The second element is, we call it, by the way, we call that hardening. So hardening because it's hardened into the hardware. The second element is, when we say multiple factors, we want to make sure that we've got the right kind of factors. So there's 3 classes of factors. There's something you are, so that would be like biometrics. Something you have, which is something like a phone with a Bluetooth proximity connection, or something you know, which is like a PIN. And we can embed those factors into the hardware, as I said before. The second element with that, not just embedding those elements, is also the IT policy. So when IT can now set what kind of policy do they want to have for access into the PC. In some cases, they might say, well, if I'm in a trusted network, I want to have these sets of capabilities. If I'm in an untrusted network, I want to have a greater sense of authentication factors that need to go in. So they have this flexibility, and this IT policy is embedded into the hardware as well. And then lastly, you have the credentials themselves are stored in hardware. So all 3 elements, the biometrics themselves, the IT policy, and the credentials are stored. So I thought what I would do for a second is be able to show you some of the, one example of hard multi-factor authentication in an existing platform today. So this is a commercially available PC. This happens to be the Lenovo X1 tablet. And this device, hopefully you can see it up there on the screen, this device is running Windows 10. Although the solution that's out there today, called Intel Authenticate, is available on Windows 7, 8.1, and 10. So it's available on any OS. But this happens to be Windows 10. So just as a demonstration, what I'll do is I'll lock this PC. So this is a standard login screen for Windows 10. And the way we have this configured is that the PC will look for a phone first to see if it's close. And then it will ask for a password. So in just a moment there, so I hit the enter button there instead of entering a password. So you saw it immediately asked me for a fingerprint. If I come over here and just touch the fingerprint sensor, and then voila, I'm in. So from a user perspective, they see this as, I don't have a password anymore. They carry their phone with them, so they don't think about having a phone. But and then putting you saw how quick I just touched that fingerprint sensor and I was in immediately. So that kind of user ease of use is so critical, because if users don't like the experience, they just won't do it. They'll kind of fight it, they'll complain to IT and so forth. But this is a case where the fact that we can embed this capability directly into the hardware and provide such a simple interface to be able to log in, and it works with existing operating systems, it gives the user what they want, which is they don't have to deal with passwords anymore, and it gives IT what they're looking for, which is it significantly improves the security posture of the PC. And because it's easy enough to use, it means that people will actually use it. There's other use cases here as well where we can do protected pins, we can do other factors. I don't need to show you all of those examples here today. But the fact of the matter is, when we talk about workplace transformation, the important element is that it gets integrated into the platform itself, and it's a user interface that people can understand, and it's policy-based so that IT can set the policy and then administer the policy across the entire installed base. So I'm going to change gears for just a second and talk about the third element of our vision for workplace transformation, and that's in collaboration. So the reality is that meetings, which happen all the time at businesses, they aren't that efficient. We happen to measure, and we've done this with a couple of our partners as well in the industry. We measured how long does it take for the average meeting to get up and running. So people to be able to start presenting, to be able to be productive, and the meeting actually start. And it turns out that meetings on average start somewhere between 8 and 10 minutes after the top of the hour. And that's because people are arriving, they forgot the dongle to be able to connect to the projector, or they can't get the projector to work properly. There's a whole set of reasons why it doesn't happen, but on average, the average meeting is losing between 8 and 10 minutes. The solution that we are helping drive and the industry is adopting is to put a PC in the conference room. And by doing that, this conference room PC can be enabled with very, very simple, intuitive software for users to come into the room and put in a simple 6-digit PIN, which is displayed on the screen that's in the room, and to be able to be up and running. So at Intel, as an example, we have this deployed in over 600 conference rooms today, and we're deploying it in over 3,000 by the end of this year. We've been able to measure through real-time telemetry, when do these meetings start now? And the time to start is now 2 minutes and 47 seconds. So we've been able to take, at Intel, before this solution was available, we were starting at about 8 minutes or so, a little after 8 minutes after the hour. So we've delivered about 6 minutes of increased productivity by delivering a solution like this, so focused on the conference room, focused on collaboration. And the other thing that happens with meetings is that the people that aren't physically in the room oftentimes get disenfranchised in the meeting. You know, people will be talking and saying, "Oh, sorry, we're going to go over to the whiteboard over here and start drawing," and now all of a sudden everybody that's not in the room physically is just sort of cut off from the conversation. So by adding solutions like this, which are very, relatively speaking, very, very low cost, fractions of the cost of existing meeting room solutions that are out there, you can increase the collaboration. You can provide a camera-type solution that gives people control to be able to see what's in the room. You can give them the ability to do multiple presenters at the same time. So if you're making, let's say, a presentation, you can have one person with a presentation open as they're editing, with another person presenting on the same screen to be able to show the Excel spreadsheet or the Word document or whatever it is that has the information. So it's very, very collaborative in the sense that multiple people can present. You don't have to do the musical chairs as you go from one presenter to the next in the meeting, where somebody has to get up and walk over and plug in their PC and get the other person to move out of that chair. you don't have to do any of that. This is all seamless. People can just present, view, you can remotely view, you can remotely present, and that's all enabled by one simple step, and that's to put this PC into the conference room with the collaboration software on there. So we have a solution there. It is working. You can see there's vendors out there in the market from Acer and Asus and Dell. Our solution happens to be called Unite, but there are other solutions that are out there that are fundamentally based on the fact that you have the PC in the room with all the flexibility of a PC that IT knows how to manage and gives yet that capability of sharing and collaboration. So we're excited about this, but this is a core element of the overall vision of no wires, no passwords, and easy, seamless collaboration. So we see workplace transformation continuing. This is a trend. Obviously, it started years ago, but this is not something that has any sign of abating over the years to come. There's so much innovation that's happening here at the PC level and the capabilities of the PC and the form factors of the PC, but also with the collaboration type capabilities that are happening in the office space as well. It is not just about being productive and efficient and collaborative. It also has to be secure. And that's where the industry needs to evolve more. We have early solutions that are out there today that show significant promise, like what I demonstrate here on stage, that make things easy and intuitive, and yet far, far more secure than anything that exists out in the marketplace today with true multi-factor authentication. And by expanding the PC into new areas like collaboration, or in education, the same kind of capability I described for an office environment applies also in the education space or in the healthcare space. By putting a PC in those spaces with simple-to-use, intuitive software, we can change and transform the workplace. So with that, I thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great CeBIT.
We've got time maybe for one or two questions from the audience. Yeah. Anything from the audience? Any questions?
Yeah, question
Anyone out there?
Thank you. With the example of the laptop, the signing in to two-factor authorization.
Yes?
What happens if there are multiple phones nearby?
The phone pairing is secure. So before, it's not just any phone that's by, it has to be your phone. So we establish a trusted connection between your phone and your PC, and that's the only thing that the PC is looking for.
Okay, anyone else? Anything? Thomas, I know someone had asked me to maybe ask you, when you talk about workplace transformation, what is the one thing that is changing right now the most?
Well, I think the biggest focus is trying to make employees more productive. And so from an IT perspective, years ago, their idea was, we need to manage the environment and we manage the costs and so forth. And it was more of an internal focus on how can they make their life easier in IT. And over the last 5 to 10 years, especially over the last 5 years, we've seen IT say, we are a strategic asset to the company.
Yeah.
And by being a strategic asset to the company, we can enable new capabilities. And by enabling those capabilities, we can make our employees more efficient and deliver a higher level of capability to the company. And so that change in mindset from the IT side is a huge change. And that's why they're looking at new capabilities like what we described here. Mm-hmm. It's not a technology-led discussion. It's really about how does the company want to evolve and what kind of work environment do we want to have and where do we think we can make people most efficient and where can we attract the most talent. Those are the kind of things that IT shops now more than ever are tackling those classes of challenges, and not just being hey, we happen to love this new technology, so let's figure out how to push that in.
You know, we talked this morning about maybe the dangers or the risks of bring your own device workshops, and you know, almost all offices are that way now. Is that a good? Is that a positive or a negative when you're talking about increasing productivity?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So, bring your own devices started from a fundamental challenge, and that was that the consumer devices were far superior and more attractive than business devices.
Yeah.
And so
Is that still the case?
No, it's not the case. So
Okay.
what we see in the past, what we saw was people going to work and having to use this big, clunky, ugly thing, and then going home and using a much nicer PC. And they said, well, why do I have two PCs? Why can't I just use the PC I actually like to be at work? So now what happened? So IT shops started sort of bowing to that pressure initially, and that's where the bring your own device trend started. The challenge is that those PCs aren't designed to be managed. They're not designed to stand up to the rigors of business use. So you had huge costs from IT to try to manage such a complicated environment with all kinds of different devices. What we see now is really a move away from bring your own device, with the exception of phones. But in the PC space, you see now a choose your own device strategy. So IT can go and get business PCs, which are as attractive as what I showed here. So there's really no compromise in the form, fit, and function of the device. It's just as good as a consumer device, if not better. But it's built to be managed. It's built for all the rigors of the business environment. And what we see is that the users don't mind now because they like these new classes of device, and IT, the costs go way down.
Yeah. Okay, very good. All right, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
That was a great presentation,
Great
great discussion.
Thank you very much.
Give him a round of applause, everybody. Thomas Garrison.